All right, everyone. Welcome, you guys, to the Monday night Hawaii Hustlers Diamond Call. We are super excited to have one of my very favorite diamonds, Kendra Randolph, with us tonight. He's going to be sharing. Kendra, just to kind of give you an idea of who this group is and kind of who you're talking to. We are 5 senior Ruby teams who kind of came together at the end of the year and said, hey, let's get together. Let's put our top runners on our team and give them an opportunity to really be challenged and get to know one another and to really be pushing towards getting that Hawaii goal, which we all know is super exciting for July 31st. So that's what we're doing. And so each week out of the five of us that are doing the challenge, we each kind of take a week. And so this is my week, everybody. And so this week, the challenges are focused on follow-up, DMO, IPA. So we'll talk a little bit about that with Kendra, but she has such a wealth of knowledge in so many areas. I think you guys are going to be really blessed by all the things she brings to the table. So Kendra is from South Carolina. She is an amazing diamond who went emerald in 6 months and then diamond, and you're going to have to tell me how many months to diamond. I don't know, my internet connection is unstable. That's never good, you guys. Can everybody still hear me? Give me like a thumbs up. That always makes me super nervous.
Yeah.
Good? Okay. Yeah. Okay, good.
They got that I was from South Carolina. That's it.
That's all you heard was South Carolina? Okay. So she is a diamond from South Carolina. She went emerald in 6 months. So we're going to get to hear kind of how that went and then how she kind of pushed through and got to diamond. But I think it's really cool because she's going to tell her story, but she started out as a single mom, you guys, and to be able to go from single mom on the verge of foreclosure, if you've seen her diamond documentary, she shares that, to a diamond who is just rocking and rolling and has an amazing team. I think she's just got an incredibly inspiring story. So I just want to start out by introducing you and letting you kind of speak to that, sort of your introduction, your testimony, to give us some background on you.
I would love to. I still get so nervous and humbled when someone asks me to come speak as a diamond, because I can promise you guys, like, I really do feel just like you guys. Like, that is one of my, I guess my heart is that I never want to feel like I am untouchable and that I'm just like you guys. So let's like clear the slate right there. I promise you, like I have a t-shirt that I wear all the time. It says, I'm a hot mess, but I'm blessed. So I am just figuring this business out just like you guys are. So a little bit, Dawn mentioned my story. First of all, Dawn, I just want everybody to know how much I love and appreciate you and your friendship. I am just so honored to call you friend. So thank you for inviting me to do this tonight. I feel like, I don't know, I'm out of my league to be on this call, but since you invited me, I'm going to do my very best to just give a little bit of my heart of what I would have wanted to hear when I first got started. Because I know for me, Dawn, we didn't talk about this the other night, but when we first got started, we didn't have anything like this. We were kind of out there pioneering, figuring out what we were doing. And I am so thankful that there is something out there for you guys to plug into and help encourage each other and hold each other accountable. So this is amazing. Now, a little bit about my story. As Dawn mentioned, I actually did go through foreclosure, bankruptcy, a really bad divorce, and I was a single mom and was really struggling on how I was going to make this business work as a single mom and working a full-time job. That was probably one of the hardest things to do, was that intentional sacrifice. And Dawn wanted me to speak a little bit about how I went to diamond, or how I went to emerald in 6 months. And if I had to pick one thing, Dawn, and to the group, it was what I would call intentional sacrifice. It was being very, very intentional about, if I, basically what I am willing to sacrifice now will pay me later. And so, but that's really hard. It looks like everyone on the call is a lady. And we tend to not sacrifice for ourselves. And so I was at a place in my life that I knew that if I could sacrifice and I could just put, because let me tell you guys something, guys. I don't know if anybody's ever been at the bottom, but it is really uncomfortable. And my bottom hurt so badly that I was like, I never, ever want to go back there. And so when Dawn and I were talking earlier this week about this call, I was like, some of what I did is not duplicatable, because I hurt so badly at the bottom that I hope none of you guys are there or have been there. But when you are there, you want out and you will do whatever it takes to get out of that situation. So I think, Dawn, to kind of go back to what I feel got me to Emerald in 6 months is I had no option. Like, this had to work for me. So I really was very, very intentional about what I was willing to sacrifice. And it was a lot of work. I think that is something that we don't really talk a lot about, is how much work was involved. And there was a lot of work. So when a lot of times, one of my passions is coaching people. I absolutely love to coach people. And one of the things that when they come to me and they ask me why their business isn't growing exponentially is, one, they don't have momentum yet underneath them. They are losing more than they're gaining. And so the attrition is catching up with them. But the other thing that I try to explain to them is, like, I need to see your calendar. And what exactly are you doing that is income producing activities? Now, something that I taught on last evening on my team call was the difference between passive marketing and active prospecting. And so a lot of times when people are looking at income producing activities, they're like, well, I'm posting every day 2 times a day on Facebook, or I am, I'm putting my business cards out, or I'm wearing my swag, or I'm, doing a video that you told me to do, whatever that looks like. But that's really passive marketing. Active prospecting is what I did. Like, I actively pursued people for this business. And I was very strategic about that. So I started hosting Sip and Sees. Let's see, I joined in November, and I started hosting my first Sip and See in January. And I have never not hosted less than 2 Sip and Sees a month. And I'm still a diamond. And I still host Sip and Sees. So I actively prospected, and I helped my team actively prospect. This does not have to be a big fancy opportunity meeting. And I think that's where a lot of people get kind of confused on what that looks like. People think you've got to have the bells and the whistles and the giveaways and the PowerPoints and, all of these things. Guys, I started in a local restaurant with absolutely nothing but my story. And it wasn't very much of a story. So that is kind of a little bit, Dawn, when we talked, that I was like, God, one thing is just, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was sick and tired of complaining that the world was against me, and I was never, people didn't understand me. People, it was just doomsday all the time. And I just got sick of living in that perpetual depression and sadness. And so I just kind of pulled myself up by the bootstraps and said, well, ain't nobody else going to figure it out, so I guess I better figure it out. And that was the one thing that I don't think is duplicatable, meaning I can't teach that to someone. That is just something that is inside of you that it's do or die. And I know, everyone knows Dawn's story. It's the same thing with someone who has a horrible, health tragedy come across there. It's what you do with your mindset. You can't control that, but it's what you decide to do with your life when the bottom hits and when you hit rock bottom, like, what are you going to do? And so I think that's one reason why we all love Dawn's story, is because she's so inspirational about how she managed herself when she found herself at the bottom. And I feel like, Dawn, that's why people connect to me, and why my story is so inspirational is because I did come out of it. You know, and it wasn't always pretty, guys. Like, I mean, there were lots of tears. There were lots of things I didn't post on Facebook about my story. You know, I mean, there were times when I wanted to throw in the towel and this was too much. And, you know, how was I going to ever, you know, how was I ever going to manage all of this? But I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. So that's the part that I want to impress on you guys, is like, this is worth it. It is absolutely worth being very intentional about your sacrifice time. And you will have to sacrifice to make this work. And then for me, it was Sip and Seas. I mean, I think everybody has a different format to the way that they went to the top. That just happens to be my particular story, is that I just invested in at least twice a month going and hosting Sip and Seas, which then kind of turned into opportunity meetings, Dawn. Like, it got bigger, you know, as my team grew. It got a whole lot bigger, but they started as Sip and Seas.
So when they started, tell us what it looked like when you first started, when you say a Sip and See.
So I always joke and tell people, like, my team thinks that they have to host Sip and Seas at restaurants. But I hosted Sip and Seas at a restaurant because I don't like to host people at my house. So this could be your living room. But I went to a local, I don't know if you guys, where you're at in the country, but we have a restaurant called Denny's. I think they're all over the country. And they had a side room that was free. They wanted you to purchase food. And me and a few of my power partners, that's another key to my success, is that I had people that I kind of started this business with. Remember me talking about the active prospecting? Like, I actively prospected people that I wanted to come into the business and go to Maui with me or go to Hawaii with me. I remember even telling them, I am not going to be the only mom in carpool line driving a Lexus, because you're going to be jealous when I'm driving that Lexus in the carpool line and you don't have one. So I was very persistent about bringing the right people into the business with me. And so we just joined forces and we started having Sip and Seas. And at least that way I had a couple people that would give their testimony. And it was really super simple, guys. I'm thinking if people would show up to one of my Sip and Seas now and it looked like that then, I mean, it was not perfect. That's the other thing that I think a lot of times holds people back in this business, is that they're waiting for everything to look perfect. And I can promise you that even today, I still don't feel like I present like a diamond. Like, I'm still learning and growing. And I think that's what a lot of people, they'll go to maybe someone's opportunity meeting or Sip and See, and they're like, they blow it out of the water. Well, that may be their gift. That may be something that they're really gifted in. And a lot of times what holds a lot of my leaders back is that they're trying to be like me. And I have certain gifts that they don't have. And they'll say, well, I can't do that because I couldn't do it as well as you. And that, I think for me, when I'm coaching people, a lot of times that's what I try to encourage people do, is to step outside that comfort zone. Guys, I live outside my comfort zone. Like, I've actually just gotten real accustomed to it. But I can promise you, if you want to make it to Diamond, just get really used to being uncomfortable. Like, really unused to being uncomfortable. And that is probably another secret, Dawn, is that I just committed to myself that no was not an option. A little bit about my story also. I actually have a pretty significant fear of public speaking. Like, right now, if I were to show you they're actually not too bad. I must be feeling really comfortable. Normally I can show people my hands. It's shaking a little bit. Normally when I start speaking in front of anyone, I'm incredibly nervous. And so I always pray before I go and speak to someone that, the Holy Spirit will give me the words to be able, to say to people, to inspire people. One of my stories is that I actually left the university that I went to when I was in college because I was going to have to do what's called senior seminar, which means you have to stand up in front of the deans of your school and give like your thesis, and you have to stand up. Well, I actually left that school because I could not find a major that I did not have to do public speaking. And I went to technical school. And I picked the major that did not require public speaking. Like, that's how bad I hate public speaking. So the fact that I am doing this call, or I did Sip and C's, or I get up and, I hosted Celeste Gwynn and Alicia McKee and Haley DeJock last year. And I almost threw up backstage. Like, there were 400 people in the room and I seriously thought I was going to throw up. So I live outside of my comfort zone. And I really do think that is something else that people don't embrace, is that you're not going to do this perfect. You never are going to do this perfect. So I went completely on a tangent. That's what I do best. So reel me back in and tell me what was the question.
I think, what, I think for all of us, when we hear that we're not, like, you're not perfect, or things are scary. I love that. I'm sitting here making notes. Living outside your comfort zone. I think, I feel the same way. There's been so many times where was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to do it. I don't know. I'm just going to have to go for it. So I love that. That's why I didn't stop you. It was awesome. All right. So let me see what I got here, because I did get some questions.
Okay.
Some people that sent some questions in. Okay. Well, I want you to, before I get into the questions that I asked, because I know that you did the Emerald very fast in 6 months. And then you shared with me, then it kind of hit a wall and you had to really push to get to Diamond. And so your intentionality of going after people then changed into becoming really a servant leader and understanding how to lead people and how to create systems of duplication. So I just want you to speak to how you got past that wall and got to the next level.
Okay, I will. And one quick thing I will share with you guys, a little bit about my story to Emerald. I did recruit a lot of people when I first came out of the gate. When I first realized, like, okay, this is an active prospecting business, and the more people I bring in, the better chance I have to get out of the situation that I'm in. So I recruited, I want to say it was like 21 people in 30 days, just brought in a massive amount of people. And then the next step, and you may not be able to bring 21 people into the business, but whoever you bring into the business, your next step is to get them to silver. So and I still continue to try to do this. So I will bring in an influx of people, and then my next step is I need to invest in them and I need to help them build their business. I need to help them bring people into the business. And it's always just this revolving cycle of recruit and then help your people recruit. Recruit, help your people recruit. So that's just another tip, Dawn, that I wanted to share with that, about, bringing in as many people as you can, and then finding out who your top 20% is, the people who really want to run with you. And when you find those runners, investing in them and helping them get to the next promotion. So everybody will ask, like, what's the secret to promotion? The secret to promotion is to help the people underneath you promote. Like, that's the secret. Every promotion I've ever gotten has been because somebody underneath me was chasing a promotion and I helped them promote. So that's where the servant leadership comes in, Dawn. And when I realized that pretty early on around Gold Ambassador, I realized, I was like, okay, the only way for me to, because I'm kind of run out of, all these people to bring in the business. I mean, my goal is to always bring, 2-3 people into the business every couple of months. So I had my warm market had slowed down. So I realized, well, their warm market hasn't slowed down. So I need to go invest in them and help them start bringing in people. So another tip that I actually don't talk a lot about, and it just came to me, is that when I host sip and sees and opportunity meetings, now this is my story. This may not be yours. I'm just putting it out there of how I grew my business. I never invited anybody to sip and sees. I actively prospected people on my own. And then I came to sip and sees strictly to serve my team. So I hosted them, and so that way when they brought a guest or they brought an ambassador with them, I could focus solely on them. So that's just another kind of side note that I did, is I realized if I'm going to get my team to grow, I've got to help my team actively prospect. So, okay, so back to your question. So, did you want to ask me a question, Dawn?
Well, when you say, like, how do you help them? Like, what does that look like? When you say you're going to help your team actively prospect, what do you do?
Bring them to sip and sees. Invite them to come be with me so that I can help share that information.
Okay.
So I did not have sip and sees to grow my business,
Gotcha.
My personal business. I had sip and sees to grow their business, which would, of course, in turn, grow my business.
I have a question. Did you did you open these up to your whole team, or would you select maybe like 2 or 3 people and just have it be really for them?
Kind of depended. It ended up being for the entire team. But I only had a few runners, people who were really invested in having them, and we were all partners. So it usually would be, I would say on average, about 2 to 3 downlines, that we would hook up together and have people come. And then I realized as I kind of continued to grow, and I'm actually still realizing this, sometimes the smaller, more intimate sip and sees are a lot more effective than these large meetings. So then we kind of started to branch off when my team started to get too big. And then we would actually branch off and have smaller meetings. The problem with that is I'm only one person. And in the midst of my single mother story, I actually met an amazing man who has 2 children. I have a son, and he has 2 children. He lost his wife very suddenly when John Michael, our son, was 3 weeks old. And then his daughter was 5. And then my son, at the same time, when we got married, they are 2 months apart. So we now have 2 7-year-olds and a 2-year-old. So in the mix of me going to Emerald, I also met a man, got married, and moved to North Carolina. So, so when people try to say I don't have time, I'm like, listen, let me tell you about time. Like, I went to Emerald as a single mama, working full time, and had no help. Well, besides my family, as far as a spouse. And then I got married, added 2 new children. Kids went off to kindergarten. I moved. My stuff, y'all, is still in storage. It's still in a storage building. Like, I basically packed it up, put it in a storage building, got my friend Tracy Cohen. She's now in Emerald. She moved into my house because I didn't have time to rent it or move it in or put it on the market. So it was that intentional sacrifice. But sorry, I went off tangent. Just tell y'all a little bit more about me. But yeah, so I never really was able to, I guess, have like small sip and sees because my team grew so quickly that I'm only one person. And I'm going to just be honest, selfishly, I had to have bigger op meetings because I could only intentionally sacrifice so much time. And if I had gone to every single leg that was growing it on my downline, I would never have been at home. So did that answer your question, Dawn? But
yes.
If you can have them individually, if you can sacrifice that time and have it individually for your team leaders, then absolutely. I just tended to have bigger meetings so that I could serve as many people at one time.
Okay. And while we're on the topic of sip and season meetings, someone did ask, what is the format that you use that you found is most effective?
So we have done just about everything. And my personal opinion, again, this is absolutely an opinion. I think you should try different ways and see what works best for you. I personally think a non-formal sip and see works so much better. Most people are not great at PowerPoints. I am actually not that great at PowerPoint. You have to be your timing has to be spot on to be able to go through a PowerPoint to keep your audience's attention. So if you are going to have a PowerPoint, you absolutely, you need to make certain your technology is going to work. That can be very glitchy at times. So sometimes technology makes me very, very nervous to do an opportunity meeting. And so I tell my people, you really should be able to do an opportunity meeting with a water bottle and a pink drink, like, and maybe a product catalog. I tend to think, and again, I know that this is just an opinion. I think sometimes the bigger opportunity meetings can seem, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this because you may absolutely love this company, and I think they do it well now, but I know when I was growing up, Amway was one of those companies who over-recruited people, and they bring them into these hotel meetings or these restaurant meetings. And I think a lot of times, especially certain generations, it's really hard to get them to actually come to a restaurant or a hotel or something. So I think the more informal sip and sees work a whole lot better. But if you're great at presenting a PowerPoint and you feel like, you can engage your audience with a PowerPoint, I love going and seeing a good PowerPoint. I probably have, I can say 2 of my leaders right now off the top of my head that they nail it every single time. Like, I love to go watch their presentations. I'm convicted every single time they give it. It is the being able to see the graphics and the videos. It's a great touch, but just make certain that if you are going to present that material, that you are completely comfortable presenting the material. I'll kind of leave it at that. Did that answer your question, Dawn?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think it's always good to have specifics, so that's great. Okay, so tell us about what the leadership part. So, going from that place of emerald to diamond, and kind of what that looked like when your strategy, I guess, changed and really pouring into your people. Okay,
so I really think we talked a little bit about at the beginning about momentum and how important that is. So you are trying to bring in as many people as you can to get that momentum going. Once you have momentum, it's really hard to slow it down, although I found a way to do it. So once you're kind of in that momentum and people are coming in and your downline is starting to thrive and you are bringing up more runners, what I realized when I hit Emerald, I had gone halfway to Sapphire, had gotten married, I had moved, and I was not being very strategic with my growth and what my next step was. I was still doing the exact same thing I was doing as a gold ambassador that I was doing as an Emerald. And what I realized is that my team was doing monkey see, monkey do. And we were all just basically in this hamster wheel. And I was not breaking off and becoming a leader. And so I just had a bunch of followers doing exactly what I told them to do. And they were doing it incredibly well. But I really realized actually last January, my points were going backwards. I was so confused. I didn't understand, why is this happening to me? And I realized that my team did not know how to lead. Like, I knew how to manage my team. I knew how to tell them, okay, I am a navigator. Like, if you read the 21 Laws of Leadership, one of my strengths is that I know how to navigate what we're supposed to be doing. And I failed to navigate. I failed to realize that like everyone was basically just doing the exact same thing. Nobody was focused on leadership. So one of the things that we did together as a team is we kind of just slowed down. I don't mean slowed down like in the business. I mean, we just kind of like slowed our mentality down a little bit. And we went to doing book studies on the 21 Laws of Leadership. And I got very, very convicted when I started reading these books. One, that if you're on this call, you likely have a natural leadership ability. There is something about becoming an emerald or a diamond that just, it's not just the pay. It's not just the Maui trip or the Hawaii trip. It's not just the Lexus. There's something in you that you desire to lead people. You want to help people grow. And so when I realized this was a natural gifting of mine, I actually started studying leadership. I went as far as to invest and go into the John Maxwell Leadership Conference and signing up to become a John Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker. Like, that's how convicted I was that I did not know or understand leadership. I understood it on a natural way, like it was something that God gifted me with, but he gives us lots of gifts that we have to steward, like we have to grow, and we have to actually figure out, like, okay, how can I use this gift to be able to benefit others? So I started really, really digging in and studying leadership. And once I did that and I started to grow more leaders rather than followers, that's when the whole tide just shifted. And it was such an amazing journey to watch these people that just was kind of following in my footsteps. I call them chasers. It's like the faster I would run, they would chase me. They weren't just runners. Like, they were like, no, don't leave me. Wait, don't leave me. I want what you're doing. And they were chasing me, but we were running too fast, and we almost had like run past the finish line. You know, it's like we had kind of gotten off course and we were just running. I don't know if anybody feels that way right now, but it's just like, oh my God, you're running. And you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing next. So we just kind of, as a team, just really, really slowed down and started studying leadership, servant leadership. Some of my favorite books are, of course, John Maxwell's 21 Laws. EntreLeadership by Dave Ramsey is a phenomenal read. It is such a great book. And those two books I really dug into and started to learn. And then I started to teach it. So did that answer your question, Dawn?
Yes, very good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. Let's see. Let's see. I've taken so many notes now. I'm all kind of, my pages out of order. Okay, so when you have someone that comes on, there was some training questions. So you have someone that comes on as your level 1. What is the process that you use to train them, to set them up for duplication?
I may do this differently than everybody else, and this is just my style. I am not type A. God love you type A people that have a system in place. Like, if I could borrow it, I would really appreciate it. That's what I told you guys. Like, I really am unfit to be on this call for lots of reasons. Hopefully that just makes you feel like if I can do this, anybody can do this. So if there are any non-type A people, I don't really have a system going. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl. I train one-on-one. I just invest in my people one-on-one and help hold them accountable. I will tell you, the secret to duplication is mostly accountability. It is holding them accountable for what their goals are, what their why is. The biggest mistake I ever made was assuming that my team was okay. I just assumed that everybody was as red. Does everybody know what that means? Have y'all read the 4-Color Personality? I am red like fire engine red. And so I just assumed that everybody would do what I did because I saw it. I saw the comp plan. I saw the products working. I saw the Hawaii trip. I saw the Lexus. I just thought everybody would work at the same pace, and I did not help hold them accountable. And so if you are red, you have to realize that not everybody thinks the way that you do. So I try to get to know my team individually. I have blues, I have reds, I have greens, and I try to figure out what it is that I can do to serve them to help them grow their team. So I don't have a specific, read this by this date, read this by that date, watch this video. I really try to tailor my training to each individual person, because every single person comes in the business with a different why. And so I try to make certain that I push when I should push, and I kind of sit when I'm supposed to sit. And that's really hard for a red personality, because I just think everybody is supposed to just like run straight to diamond and us all like go sit on the beaches of Hawaii and you know, drink Mai Tais together. Like that's just what, but that's not how everyone's brain works. So right. I do have things that I send people, but their resources, it's not like a blanket, do this, do that.
So I have a question. Holding somebody accountable, what does that look like? Is that calling them on the phone once a week, every day, sending them messages? What is that?
It kind of depends on the individual. A lot of times, guys, I will ask them specifically, like, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? One quick tip, guys, when you have someone join, you have about 2 weeks to get them making money. If you can't get them out of the gate with their business launched, it is very, very difficult to get them to actually do anything. So I try to get them in the first 2 weeks. I try to get them to some sort of live training. That could be a Zoom call. I try to make certain that they have at least posted on Facebook, and that they have committed to going to a sip and see or hosting a sip and see. You've got to get them to launch their business. That is probably one of the factors that most people fail to do. It's not really about the training. It's really not. It is about getting them to actually launch their business. People need to see they can make money. And if you can't get them making money, it doesn't matter how much training you're going to do with them. Now, I know that there are some personalities that they are very, let's see, I think that's green, that need all of the details and they need all of the information. And you have to work with them and give them all their information. But you always need to be thinking, how can I get them making money? Like that is your goal, because if they don't see that this is actually going to work for them, it doesn't really matter how much training you do. So I guess my first thing, my motivation is to get them to see the potential and get them to understand their why, and then get them to launch their business. And that could just be coming to a Zoom meeting. It could be posting on Facebook. You know, there's lots of but it's always figuring out what their next step is. So their accountability for me is, you kind of tell me what you want, I'm going to tell you what your next step is, and then I help hold them accountable for that. So if they miss this Zoom meeting, then, you know, I'll follow up with them and go, hey, you know, I really missed you on the Zoom call tonight. We have another one on Thursday night that I want you to plug into. And until they tell me to leave them alone, I keep telling them what their next step is.
That's really good. Do you do that for just your level ones, or do you tend to reach out farther down?
It kind of depends on the scenario. If they're brand new, no. If they peek their head out and they show me that they're a runner, and they're really working this business, then I will reach out to them, especially if they have an upline leader who is maybe just now starting to grow. I will make myself available to kind of help hold them accountable. But I don't do that for there's physically no way I could do that. But yeah, if they're kind of peeking their head out and they're really starting to work the business, and I do have some people on my team that I call connectors, that they really have zero desire to be a leader and work the business. And I know who those people are. One of them is one of my level ones. And she doesn't go to meetings. She doesn't go to, she's won leaders retreat 2 years in a row and she didn't go to convention, but she's a great recruiter. So I know that I'm going to need to lead her team. Now she'll answer basic questions. So I always refer them to her for the basic questions, but if they desire to actually work a team and become a leader, then I just automatically know that I'm going to need to adopt them as my level one. So that's kind of how I do it. It's so, there's not a cookie cutter way of doing this. I think it's just a matter of doing it.
Yes.
Like that's there's not a right, guys. I've done it so many different ways. Tomorrow my strategy may change. I'm always changing it up and doing things, but it's just, the key word is doing it. Like, that's the key word. It really, I don't think there's a right or wrong, as long as your heart is in the right place and your goal is to serve your team and help them make their next rank. And it's not about you and your promotion. It is about, because your team wants you to succeed, because if you're succeeding, that means they're likely succeeding. So they want you to do well. But if your heart's in the right place and you're serving people and you're investing in them, I don't really think there is a right or wrong way for you to I think let me back that up. I think you can follow up with people too much if you don't use some common sense judgment, that if someone just came into the business and they haven't even gotten their product yet, you may not follow up with them once a day, so you kind of have to figure that out as you go along. But the one thing I will say, Dawn, really quickly, is that a part of my demise when I was halfway to Sapphire and then went backwards is going back to that lack of accountability, is that I didn't really have a system. I didn't have my level ones written down, listed, that I could look at. So one of the things that I'll show you guys what I have now. I actually have my level ones listed on a piece of paper, and they're all assigned a day. And so this would be my Tuesday list, and it has all of my level ones that are running, they want to work the business. And I just make certain that I hold myself accountable to follow up with them. Like this week, I'm traveling to Phoenix. I likely will not be able to follow up with every one of them this week, but it's kind of like your daily DMO. It's there may be days that you fall short, but you can't fall short for 3 or 4 days, a week, 2 weeks. You may fall short 1 day, 2 days, but you have a system in place. So I do have my level ones listed out, Dawn, so that I know every day I want to try to follow up with this many people. And then one of the other things that I have done for any of those that are senior rubies, I know there's some people on there, silver, golds, but I actually help hold my team accountable with their points. So one of the things that I love about the back office is that you can actually see where people end the month with. Okay, if y'all are brand new and you were with the old back office, this was like Christmas to me every time I open the back office, because I can actually see in real time where my team is at. So one of the things that I have is I have a leaders board. It's gold and above. And I actually write down, I'm not going to show it to you because I don't want to confidentiality, but here I can like show you like this. So I will go, and if you, it has like October, November, December. You'll see that. And then I will actually go and look and see where they ended up with the month before. And I just kind of track and see, like, did they go up? Did they go down? And then I'm able, and I have all of my gold and aboves. They're all listed here. And I sit down for about, this usually takes me about 45 minutes to sit down. I think I've got like 64 gold and above leaders on that team page. And I just go through, and that way I can look and see, okay, who may need my help? Okay, that team is growing every single month. They're doing great. But hey, that team is falling short. So that's another thing that I kind of do for myself is I have the back office kind of help me be able to look and see where my team is actually growing and which ones are actually going backwards.
That's very good. I read that. That's a very good tip. Good deal. Okay, that really, I mean, we went through a lot of the questions that I had written down. This is really good information, really, really good stuff. Does anybody have, let me check the chat. Let me see.
Okay.
Let me see. Does anybody?
Yes, there's a couple there, Dawn.
If they don't want to work the business and just want their products wholesale, do you still try and encourage them to sell, or do you just let it go and let them come to you if they change their mind?
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah, I qualify my ambassadors before I sign them up. I typically do not sign someone up to be an ambassador unless they have at least one other person in their house that's going to be purchasing the products. I keep them as a preferred customer. Now, I didn't do that at the beginning. I will be honest. All of the people that I pretty much signed up, I mean, there were a lot of them that really should probably have stayed a preferred customer. But I've kind of learned this over the course of the business. But it's kind of a double-edged sword because I was actually one of those that said, I just want my products for cheaper, which was a complete lie. Of course, I wanted this to work, but I just didn't want to fail. So sometimes people will tell you, I just want my products for cheaper because maybe they have done a previous network marketing before and it didn't work for them. So, you know, a lot of times people will tell you that just because they want to give themselves that prideful out of like, well, if this doesn't work, then I'm not hurting anybody's feelings. So most people are not going to come out of the gate telling you, I'm going to be Emerald in 6 months. Because they don't want to fail. Like they would rather just kind of stair step their way to the top. And so for me, if someone specifically though, Dawn says, I will absolutely never post on Facebook. I will absolutely, you know, not come to an opportunity meeting or have a sip and see. I'm too shy. I'm not interested. I'll never talk to anybody. For me, I tend to not set them up for failure. I tend to sign them up as, I just keep them as a preferred customer. But yeah, if they come into the business and they just want their products for wholesale, I bless and release and I move on. And I've had several actually start out as a wholesaler that have then come back and said, hey, hey, what can I do to do what you're doing? Mm-hmm. And I actually have had a couple come back, but it was on their time. I don't push the business on anybody. I mean, I think the opportunity is available for anyone to work, you know, and what makes people successful is that we talked about at the beginning is that they work it. Usually the two reasons that most people fail in this business is one, lack of trying. They never launched. They never actually committed to working the business. They were just playing around with it and hoping that it would work. And the second one is they quit too early. I mean, they they normally say that most businesses, it's going to take you 2 or 3 years before your business is established. And so a lot of times people only give it, 30, 60 days of a mediocre work ethic. And then they think that network marketing doesn't work for them. So those two are likely the reasons that most people don't succeed in the business. It has nothing to do with the business model. It has nothing to do with your network. It has nothing to do with your leadership. It's just the fact that you really never got your business off the ground and you got momentum underneath you. And then I've had several that they quit. I mean, and they may not have quit like turned white line. They just quit promoting. It wasn't going fast enough. And just let me share this. I'll try not to get on my soapbox about this particular one, but if you ever choose to slow down or quit, like stop posting, stop having sip and sees, stop, doing the business, it is incredibly important for you to realize you will likely never get that back. If you slow down or stop and then you come back and say a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, unless there was a legitimate reason why you slowed down, people will not take you serious. And that is a hard lesson for several people on my team that got inspired by my story and they wanted to relaunch, and it has not gone very well for them. So whatever you do, don't slow down. Mm-hmm. Like you have to keep pushing and plugging until you're ready to pull the cord. And I tell people 6 to 8 months minimum, like full steam ahead, that intentional sacrifice, just keep blowing it out of the water. And if 6 to 8 months you've done everything and it's still not working, and then you're like, hey, I just don't think this network marketing works for them. Okay, maybe this isn't the right calling for you. And I'm okay with that. Like I have had people leave my team. We're still friends. I still love them. It's all good. This business isn't for everybody, and you need to walk away with that. Like, this business is absolutely not for every single person. I believe it's for you because you're on the call, but it's not for everybody. And some people are going to tell you no, and some people are going to try it and it's not going to work. But as long as you are serving them and you are helping them and you are there for them, you've done everything you could. So yes, to the very long version was that. The short version is let them go. Like, I just don't have time. I mean, that is something really quick, and I don't know how long you guys normally go. I could talk about Plexus all night long. But I was investing way too much time in my bottom 80%. And so if you've not read the 21 Laws of Leadership, you can look it up. It's called the Pareto Theory. It's not from John Maxwell. He did not create it. He just taught it to me. But when I switched my thinking and stopped trying to reinvent or resurrect the white lines or get these people who were barely wanting to work the business, who I'm trying to like pour all of this energy into these people. When I reversed my thinking and started working with my top 20% and started spending 80% of my time with them, my business completely transformed. I have a lot of yellow in me. I care a lot about people and I want everybody to succeed. But what I realized is that was my ministry. That was not my business. My ministry is that I'm going to go and minister to people the 20% of my time with that bottom 80%. That's my ministry. I love helping people. But my business, I'm going to work with the top of the top. I'm going to work with the cream of the crop. Like I'm going to work with the people who want exactly what I'm going to help them get. So once I reversed my thinking and I started investing more in my runners and my chasers rather than working with, the people who I had to drag along, I call it my rock and my rock stars. So when I started working with my rock stars and I stopped carrying around a bunch of rocks, and I don't mean that literally because I love my rocks, but they were weighting me down. And I was investing way too much time, and I was wearing myself out trying to carry these rocks around. And so once I started investing in the rock stars, then it was straight to the top. So did that answer your question, Dawn?
Absolutely. No, great. Very good. Yes. Good. Very good. Okay.
I do have a question. I've just been anxiously waiting to ask this, but I struggle. I feel like a lot of people struggle training their level ones. And so I know I do a lot of the one-on-ones, but sometimes when I do the one-on-ones, I'm like, okay, what do I cover? What do I share? Do I give them the compensation plan? Do I give them, the list of the products, the price list? So what information do you provide just like to get them started? How some people say that they like to actually have documents in their hand versus, hey, go on my team page. It's under the files tab.
Right.
So what information do you provide anybody that you're coming one-on-one?
I typically send them my whatever YouTube videos spoke to me, and I just kind of have a core go-to, YouTube video, whether it's the comp plan or whether it is the product. And then I will just physically send them the YouTube link. As a leader, your role is to always figure out what their next step is. So when you send them a link, you give them their next step. So it's something like this. Dawn, here is a video about the compensation plan. When you have watched it, get back to me and let me know if you have any questions. Does that make sense to everyone? Mm-hmm. So there's always the next step. So a manager kind of mandates and says, watch this and get back to me in 24 hours. Or watch this. As a leader, you've got to give them something and then they've got to give you something back. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. So you're always asking for, it's a call to action. Okay, so you're always looking to, okay, I'm going to give you something of my time. Another just total side note, and I don't know that I've ever said this to people out loud in a big group setting that's being recorded, but sometimes I think we water down the opportunity by making it too easy for people. I really think I sometimes wish we had to pay thousands of dollars to join this opportunity, because I think people would take it a whole lot more serious than they do when we are basically spoon feeding this stuff to people. So be very careful that you're not what's the word I'm looking for? I'm really trying to think of the politically correct way of basically saying babying people. Because people take things serious when you make it serious. And so a lot of times I think what people are doing is I always describe it in leadership as like a baby growing up. So, your first couple of days, they're babies. You're holding their head, you're giving them all this stuff, you're putting the bottle in their mouth, they're babies. I mean, these are your babies. Your baby has to grow up. And so you're looking for them to start developing, and then it's like, okay, we're going to spoon feed you, and as they grow, a lot of times team leaders, they end up with a bunch of unruly teenagers that are just, they're not growing up. They're not graduating. So that's a part of leadership that I'm always looking for people. I want you grown up, getting married, and out of my house. I want a bunch of diamonds on my team that I don't even know what they're doing. Your goal as a leader is to get people off the boob. like as quickly as possible. See, y'all, you took me 1 minute over, Dawn, 10:01, and now I'm gonna go like into like my cray mode.
I love it. I love it. Write that down.
This is the after hours for the people who stayed on 1 minute after. You'll get like, they just be careful as a leader that you're not bringing up a bunch of whiny babies. You've got to give them, you want them looking for more. You want them seeking you out. So if you feel like you are constantly just putting the boob back in the mouth or the bottle in the mouth, if you're not into breastfeeding, like you've got to wean them. They've got to be hungry. You've got to get them wanting more. Guys, you have an opportunity in front of you that can change these people's lives. So if you constantly feel like you are just shoving the bottle in their mouth, back up some and try to get them hungry for their why. They're likely missing the opportunity, and you're almost begging them. So be careful not to beg people to work this business, because you're undermining, you're kind of watering down the business opportunity. Does that make sense to everybody?
Huh?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kendra.
You're welcome. I know that did not really answer your question, but hopefully it gave you some guidance, because I just don't have a cookie cutter way of doing it. It's mindset. It's what you can get these people to believe in themselves. You can give them a comp plan. You can give them the product knowledge. But if you can't get them to see and believe in this business and the opportunity, it's going to fall short.
That is so true.
I had like when I first started, I did have like the top 10 things that I felt like an ambassador should know in the business. And so I guess I did kind of have a little bit of a strategy behind my madness. I didn't create it. That's not my gift. One of my teammates created it for me, because I was like, what in the world? I don't know what to tell these people. It's just like, well, let's just sit down and let me tap your brain. And I'm going to type A, take your brain and put it on paper. She was a quality control manager. So she sat me down and like interviewed me and was like, okay, you are so outside the box. Let me take and put your brain onto a piece of paper. So we did kind of have the top 10 things, but going back to your question, it was the comp plan. You know, it was the product knowledge. I mean, it's all the stuff that's it's honestly, it's in your success kit.
Which is great. I just want to kind of touch on that too. And I know we're getting late, but one of the things that I've discovered in my 2 years of kind of trying to really figure out people and why so many good people who I thought were going to be rock stars, who I thought that were going to be awesome, but had everything for whatever reason gave up. And I think that belief is so important from the beginning. When you really make it something that they want, that they believe in, then the work isn't nearly as hard, you know.
Yes.
So that's what will drive them to the next level to keep going.
Yeah.
So,
if you can't get them believing that these products are going to work, and that this compensation plan is second to none, and that the camaraderie and the fellowship, there's so many things that you just got. It's the next small step in front of them. So as their leader, you know, yes, you've got to give them information. Don't get me wrong. Like, that is so critical and is such a critical piece to this business. But really at the end of the day, you've got to get them to believe in their why, and that they can do this. And you've got to believe more than they believe. Because remember, their pride's going to get in their way. They're going to think this isn't going to work. I've tried this before. I've tried every diet. I've tried a compensation plan. I've tried to make extra money. People don't believe this is going to work. You know, so you're going to have to believe in them more than they believe in themselves. And then that accountability and just helping them get to that next level. And sometimes, just another kind of side note again, I don't know if I've ever said this out loud either. be careful painting the Hawaii Lexus $20,000, $10,000 a month vision. They need to know that's a possibility, but I can guarantee you, Haley could have never have convinced me that I would be doing this and that I would have been a diamond when I first started, because I certainly didn't feel like a diamond, and I certainly didn't believe I was a diamond. You know, it was a personal growth process that I had to go through to get there. So sometimes I think we can almost oversell the Hawaii and the Lexus and the paycheck, that sometimes people are like, I don't know that I deserve all that. I don't know if I want all that. You just got to get them believing in themselves, believing that they can make an extra $100, believing, because that's what Haley did for me. Like, she was like, okay, you know, what do you need to do the first month? I'm like, well, I'm broke, so I need to make enough money to pay for my products. And she's like, okay, well, then you need to get 3 ambassadors and you need to get a couple of customers so that you can break even. Got it. You know, and that was my first step. And I remember calling her after I went silver, and I was like, okay, well, that was fun. Now what do I do? And she never, y'all are going to think this is crazy, and I'm probably an anomaly. She never showed me the compensation plan, nor did I ever look at it until I was like halfway to gold. I just wanted to know what my next step was. And then, so when I got to silver, I was like, okay, now what do I do? She's like, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, no. See, I didn't know what red meant. I'm like, I'm red. Somebody needs to tell me what my goal is. She's like, you need 20 people. Done. And then I went for my next step. So I guess to go back to, I can't remember who asked me that question. I know your ambassador and know what it is that they need. If they're red, just tell them what their next step is. Like, tell them you need to get 20 people in the next 30 days and go fast start gold. God, I wish you would have told me about fast start gold when I first started. I would have like blown it out of the water. So you kind of need to know your audience, and you need to know who you're coaching and who you're leading. I think that is a key component to it too, is make certain that you know what their why is, and you know how to help get them to the next level.
Well, very good. Excellent. I'm going to